Hi, I'm Rob.
And I'm Rob.
And this is Ask Rob and Rob.
Yes, it is Ask Rob and Rob. We are the Robs. You ask the questions, we give the answers, and it's a very simple concept, but hopefully mildly entertaining and very useful. And the great news is, we keep turning up every week because you keep giving us questions, and it's probably because we answer them, but it's also because it's nice and simple to do it. So we give you two options. Take your pick. Both are simple.
Yep, will you choose option 1, giving us a call? You can call on 013 808 0035, 013 808 0035, leave us a voicemail. Or will you choose option 2, go to thepropertyhub.net/ask and leave us a voicemail using your laptop instead. Doesn't really matter, to be honest, as long as you get your questions in, which 2 people have today. Let's have the first one of those, and that comes from Sam in Hampshire. Take it away, Sam.
Hi guys, my name's Sam. I'm from Hampshire. Thanks for your amazing podcast. I've listened to about 30 in the last week alone. I just wondered if you could give me your thoughts on the question I had relating to the mid-cycle wobble that we may be entering. We have planning to build a new house in our garden. We plan to build the new house and sell off our existing property. We live in the southeast in a national park where house prices are fairly high. And we have until January 2019 until our planning consent expires. We're concerned that with the market softening, it may be a bad time to start our project and would be better to postpone as much as possible so that we can sell when the market improves. It'd be great to have your thoughts on this. Thanks very much again.
Thank you, Sam. Great question. I think we've spooked a lot of people because we've talked quite frequently about a mid-cycle wobble, and you could argue we're in the very beginnings of that right now. However, Sam, I wouldn't worry too much because we call it a wobble, not a crash. We do believe there'll be a crash at some point, but that's some time off. We believe this will be a wobble, and the wobble will be followed by more aggressive growth. We've talked about that, yes, the more aggressive growth will be in the north, but you will also see growth in the southeast as well. So if you're basing it on the 18-year property cycle, the 18-year property cycle would say, crack on. Now, of course, we've got to throw all the caveats out so you don't come knocking at our door with your hands out for cash because you built something and it didn't go right. That, it's a proposed cycle. We can't promise you growth, blah, blah, blah. But if it was me, I'd carry on. And actually, myself, I am developing right now and I am looking at extending my own home. So I'm not concerned. I'm still pretty happy because I see it as a wobble, not a crash, and I'm in it for the long term. But Rob, you've got a good idea that even if the worst happens, you still should be okay.
Yeah, the thing I was thinking is it's going to take you a while to get it built anyway, and who knows what the market's going to look like by then. But I know some people who are selling in London right now. They've just developed some flats. They're now selling those flats, and the timing is a bit off because London has just gone very quiet suddenly. So if the market is still like that at the point when you finish yours in that particular area, then you can always rent it. That's what they're doing. You could rent it for a couple of years and then sell when the time is right. And yes, you might need to sort of jiggle your finance around to make that possible, but it's always an option. So I'd say if now is the right time for you logistically to do it, then it doesn't seem worth waiting. There'll be other points in the cycle when I think you'd get a different answer. There'll be a time when it does seem like a bit of a risky proposition. But like Rob said, we cannot guarantee anything. Don't come back to us if we turn out to be wrong, but hopefully our answers and our actions as well will give you confidence.
I have noticed, Rob, though, that people haven't come back to us with shares of the profits on the areas that we've said would do well and people have invested in. So I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, let's have our second question. And this is a really interesting one from good friend of the Property Hub, Chris from St Albans.
Hi, Rob. It's Chris from St Albans. I have a question for you. I was contacted by a well-known TV production company who are producing what they called as a Back to the Floor landlord property programme, which is now being aired on the BBC. Due to lack of editorial control, I declined the initial invite, although I would hope that any filming of my properties would be very boring and wouldn't reach the airways, as I think our properties are fairly well run. However, I've now been contacted about Series 2, which they're planning for BBC One. Given the old saying that there's no such thing as bad publicity, should I say yes, and what would you do? Keep up the great work. Thanks a lot. Cheers, Chris.
Chris. Why? Why would you even be thinking about this?
I said you had to go first because you'd be more diplomatic, but this hasn't started diplomatic, Rob.
This is me being diplomatic. Seriously. I cannot imagine why this is something you'd want to do. I've got absolutely no doubt that your properties are really well managed. They would be looking for dirt on you. They would not find anything. But what's the upside here? For me, the downside is really clear. You could go on there and they'd find some way of making you look like an idiot. Now, I know you're not an idiot, but with the right editing, who knows what they would manage to do. So I'd say best case is neutral. Worst case is pretty bad. But what's the upside? Why would you want that kind of exposure, especially when you don't have control over it? So if you're talking about the show that I think you are, the one that's just been on recently, then some of the people on that have kind of taken the no such thing as bad publicity to heart. And some of the people who've gone on there and really not looked particularly good have actually been going out and putting themselves out there and sort of doing like an as seen on TV thing and using it as a marketing opportunity. But really, what kind of people are they going to attract by doing that? It just doesn't make any sense to me at all. So to me, that's a really clear-cut answer. That was me in diplomatic mode, believe it or not. Rob, what can you add?
Don't do it, Chris. That's what I'm going to add. We know multiple landlords, investors who've been asked to go on the show, and particularly Series 1. I think they made good calls based on what I saw at the programme not to go on it. I just can't see the upside. Plenty of downside. You'll be made to look bad and people will make judgments on you that possibly could be unfair because you've been on the TV. Because as Rob said, we both know you well, your properties are rock solid, you're a great landlord. But with good editing, it can be engineered to make you look silly or a bad landlord. They can do it because they'll do enough show reel that they'll just wait for a few slip-ups to get good TV. And that's what they're doing it for. It's not looking for landlords who are great. How boring would that show be if it was like, this landlord's great? And then you swapped houses and they lived in your place, you lived in theirs, you had a lovely time, you hugged each other on the way out. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. So why do it? So I don't think we've really been on the fence on this one. I'm glad you went first, Rob. But Chris, no.
No. I'm scared enough that the outtakes of this podcast are going to get out, let alone go on TV and have the selective editing of the BBC. So Chris, hope you take our advice. I hope we won't be seeing you on the TV soon, but you probably wouldn't make the cut anyway, because like Rob said, they'll probably take one look and realise it's not going to be exciting enough. Okay, so that is another episode of Ask Rob and Rob Dispatched. We'll be back with 2 more questions next week. We'll be back with the Property Podcast on Thursday. And don't forget, our new TV show, Round the Houses with Rob and Rob, will be starting on BBC One this Friday at 8 p.m. Now, of course it won't.
No, it won't. You never know one day, but that probably will not happen. But I think what we could do, Rob, is we could do As Heard on the Property Podcast. That could be a good one.
Ooh, maybe. All right, so don't look out for us on TV, but do tune into the podcast. We'll see you very soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.